Stockholm Syndrome is not the only reason people stay in toxic relationships. You know it, I know it, everybody knows it. You know what? Rewind. Now, for those who are not familiar with the term Stockholm Syndrome, it basically is a coping mechanism to a captive or abusive situation. Think about that girl who you keep telling to leave that dude and she refuses. Or, that married woman who keeps taking a punch and a blow and still stays. A lot of times we are in toxic relationships, not just with people, maybe with organizations, with our workspace and all of that. But somehow these people who are stuck with Stockholm Syndrome find a way to find pleasure in that relationship. Now, people develop positive feelings towards their captors or abusers over time. This condition applies to situations that include child abuse, coach-athlete abuse, relationship abuse, sex trafficking, and all the kinds of abuse you can think of. So that brings me to what I was saying earlier about this not being the only reason people stay in toxic relationships. Why did I say that? Now, somebody is wondering, what other reasons are there? Why would someone intentionally want to stay in toxic relationships? It will shock you. Let me tell you. Now, there are many reasons like pressure or fear. Now, when I say pressure, I mean from society, when your parents are telling you you should get married and you know that if you leave this guy, it will take you another 6 months to 1 year to find someone else. Or friends advising you, no, don't leave him. He's a cool guy. He has money. And even if, he's giving you punches, he still apologizes and gives you flowers. And of course, there is the money and luxury life factor. And everybody knows about this. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about, among so many others. But today we are spotlighting that last point I mentioned. Yes, that one, the luxury life. Let me officially welcome you to today's episode of Fafanua Afrika. Now, this is a youth-based, conversational, and enlightening show where in less than 60 minutes, we take you through the topical, the trending issues across Africa that affect the youths, and we profile possible solutions to these challenges that the youths are facing in their everyday lives. Of course, my name is Blessings Mosugu, and I am your host for the next 1 hour. So sit tight and let's take you through the next 1 hour of bliss. It will surprise you how far people are willing to go to live the luxury life, to be the happening guy or the happening babe. And that includes going into an impossible relationship or staying in an impossible relationship regardless of character, or even coming to the realization of the partner's illegal source of wealth. That's why I said it will surprise you how far people are willing to go. But without overemphasizing too early, permit me to introduce my guests on the show today. Joining me to discuss this very important issue is first, Liza Chuma Akunyili, a sex relationship coach here in Nigeria. Thank you, Liza, for joining me. Liza, can you hear me? I think your device is muted. Could you please unmute?
Thank you for having me as well.
It's a pleasure. Thank you, Liza. Of course, we also have Fisayo Dayo Samuel, a family life practitioner and communication expert in the United Kingdom. Thank you, Fisayo, for joining us.
Thank you, Blessing, for having me today.
It's a pleasure. Thank you. And last but not the least, we have the only man in the house. I mean, the first man standing in this case, Chijioke Moses, a newlywed and premarital coach. Thank you, Chijioke, for joining us.
Thank you so much, Blessings, for having me.
You're welcome. Blessed are you amongst women. All right. Thank you to my guests for being here today. Thank you for joining us. Of course, we're talking about toxic relationships, but with a twist. We're talking about reasons people choose to stay or get into or remain in toxic relationships. Now, I mentioned some reasons earlier. I talked about the pressure. I talked about the advice from friends. I talked about fear. And of course, I talked about the intention to live the luxury life, to have that money, to belong, So let's just go straight into it. I'm going to start with Liza. For those people who don't know what kinds of things fall under the category of toxicity. I mean, Liza, you are an expert when it comes to relationship. You're a sex relationship coach. So for those who don't know what toxicity is, because I've seen a lot of people say things like, no, it's not that extreme. No, this one is not toxic yet. So can you give us the context? What exactly is a toxic relationship?
When I saw the topic, one of the few things that came to mind is what have people experienced before now? Because if people have been in toxic environments, then what you define as toxic might not come off as toxic to them. How do I then define what is toxic? If you come into a relationship that takes more from you, let's look at a toxic air, like you're in an atmosphere and the air is toxic, right? What that means is you don't get to breathe well. Literally, that's just what it means. It means the air is not clean enough. And that can hurt some people's health, especially if someone is asthmatic, for example. A toxic relationship has the ability to snuff you out, take out your light, take out your strength. Whatever you had before you came into the relationship is going as well. I think that's the easiest and the simplest way to describe a toxic relationship. The problem with that definition, however, is if you are coming from a toxic environment, you don't realize this is toxic anymore. It just looks like the normal thing. Does that help, Lesson?
Yes, it really does. Thank you so much for that, Liza. I don't know if Fisayo has anything to contribute to what Liza just said.
So Liza was actually speaking my mind because people behave the way they behave because of their experiences and exposure. So if you had an upbringing where toxicity was a norm, it's evidence that by the time you want to enter into a relationship, it's definitely something like that will want to interest you because it looks like a norm to you. Some people already had that kind of background, that kind of upbringing, that kind of exposure while they are growing up. Some people, it might not be that. Some people might just be that the kind of relationship that they have always had from the beginning was toxic. So it becomes a normal phase for them. So even if anyone is trying to point out the red flags in that relationship, they don't see it because it's a norm. So it will take a lot of process, a lot of unlearning for them to now start seeing a relationship in another new light. So toxicity, a toxic relationship takes a lot from you. But when it becomes a norm, you don't see it as a toxic relationship. It becomes a normal relationship to you, and you feel like, oh, this person is going to change very soon, or this person is maybe this is just this person's personality. I can't change the person. I can only compliment the person. Like some of my clients, I can just compliment the person. We don't have to be the same. But they are not seeing that, emotional damage part of that relationship. Yeah.
All right, thank you so much for that. Also, Chijioke, do you have anything to say to that?
Okay, yeah, I'll just add that. Of course, I think I like some of the things that Blessing that Liza said. So while she was talking, something just came to my mind. So I remember one time that so I'm going to use water as a case study. So there's a time I used to take a particular brand of bottled water, and then I was always taking it, and then it was just normal. It was, for me, it was good, clean, pure water. And then at some point, I decided to change, my brand, and then I went for another brand, and I realized while taking the new brand, I realized, that there was that the taste, from the new brand that, I was exposing myself to was quite different, in terms of purity, in terms of, and then it was pure water. It was purer than the previous one. So for me, while she was talking, I just realized that this is the case with most people in relationships. So you're experiencing certain things, and to you it's normal, because she said toxicity is, of course, for you to say you are experiencing toxicity in a relationship, you have to know what it is, and you have to be sure it's what you're experiencing, and you have to be able to relate. So while I was taking that first brand, I didn't know that I was taking something that was inferior. I didn't know it was inferior to the other one until I started taking the other one. So toxicity for me is what you're experiencing in a relationship and how you interpret it. Yeah, your personal experiences and your personal interpretation. And just like Fisayo said, some people come from toxic homes, and so when they get married, they experience toxicity in their new home, but they don't know that it's toxicity because they've not had a different kind of experience, from what they are currently going through. So for me, I think it's relative, and the definition is with respect to your personal interpretation of it. Yeah.
Okay, so now that we have been able to successfully define what toxic relationships are, I would like for us to also go around in that same circle and talk about why people stay in toxic relationships. What are the reasons? I mean, of course, I know I mentioned some reason, but if we can elaborate on them. Liza, you're up first. Why do people stay in toxic relationships?
One of my favorite reasons will be the fact that they've not experienced better. And so if this is toxic, but it is better than the last one, this is toxic, but it's better than everything else. This is the best I've ever had. It's hard for you to tell that person to let it go because they don't know there's more out there. So here, knowledge is the issue. They don't know there's more. They've not experienced more. They've not seen more. And this is where I tell people to expose themselves to other people. If you're saying relationships are like this, or marriages are like this, or sex is like this, I ask you, how many other people do you know who have the same experiences? It's the same way we generalize and say, oh, people from this tribe, or people from this culture, people from this continent behave a certain way. That's because we've not exposed ourselves to much more. We've not given ourselves more data. Yes, I think data should be the word. We've not exposed ourselves to more data to now realize, oh, okay, maybe I am one-sided in the way I'm processing this thing. The fact that people have not experienced more, they've not seen. Let's leave them experiencing it for themselves. They've not seen other people experience better. It becomes harder for them to realize this is toxic. They therefore cannot define what toxicity is. They cannot hope. They don't have the ability to hope for more. Because if I've seen it happen to someone else, I'm able to say, okay, if it happened for this person, it will happen for me. I can look out for this. I can check out for more. If they don't see it, they don't hope for it. How many good relationships do you know? Then becomes my next question to whoever it is.
Okay, I think I like the way you ended it. It looks like a book that will be a sequel eventually. Thank you for that, Liza. Fisayo, what do you think? Why do you think that people stay in toxic relationships?
All right, I will come from the place of fear. The society in which we live in now has a lot of conspiracy, have a lot of people judge you based on the things that they can see, but they don't judge you on based on the things that you're going through that you cannot, say out. People are scared of what the society is going to say or how they are going to be labeled. I'm in a toxic relationship. I want to get out, but I'm scared of what people will say. People can say, oh, this is a third relationship. Oh, she's just married and she's leaving, because people don't want to be judged. People don't want to be identified as a certain part or a certain way, in a negative way. So they decide to say, okay, I would just rather stay and manage. So the fear of what people will say, it's one of the things that that makes people stay in a toxic relationship. Another thing is that a personal or internal fear. You are not that confident internally to say that if I step out of this relationship, will I be able to get a better relationship? The fear of unknown holds people down, in a relationship that it's not edifying. And when they keep telling themselves that statement that it's better to just stay here, then there's this statement that people often use, the devil, now is better than an angel that you're trying to seek for outside. And that's because they are scared of limping out to check out or to see a better person, because they are not sure if they are going to still meet, that same situation. So the fear of society and a personal fear, the fear of unknown, you're not sure what you get outside, especially in our society where negative things about the relationship is rampant. If you go online now, you are seeing a lot of people, a lot of marriages, they are getting divorced. I want to be sure that you see them. And let's say if we have 50% of people who are married, and you see that, let's say 45 people are the ones showcasing, talking about what failed in their marriage. Yeah, it was abusive, he was cheating on me, he was being manipulative, and we just have 5% of people celebrating their marriage. So when we have more of negativity being pushed out about the relationship, people tend to take it in unconsciously and consciously, and it creates fear for them, either by the society or by their own personal interpretation of what toxic relationship means.
Okay, great. Very quickly, Chijioke, what's your take on why people stay in toxic relationships?
Okay, so I'm missing several points that Lisa and Fisayo shared. I also say that for me, I think is mostly because of societal norms. So yeah, toxicity is the norm, today in most relationships, especially here in Africa, this part of the world. It's quite normal to go to an average home and find a certain level of it. Whether it's verbal, it's emotional, or and all of that. So it's always the case. Yeah, from my experience as family life coach, I can tell you that. So for people who are in it, for them it's the norm. And just like we were saying before, when you don't know that something is wrong, you don't question that thing and you don't walk away from that thing. So for some people, it's normal for them to be in a relationship and then somebody is calling you names, your spouse is calling you names, or you're in a relationship with somebody as a single and so on, and your partner is calling you names, saying things to you when he or she is angry, kind of things you don't love to be said to you, and you're just okay with it because you look around you and it's the norm. It's what is obtainable out there. It goes to the internet, just like as Fisayo said, you see people, you see, videos, trending videos and all of that on this thing. So for me, I think because it's a norm, because it's the prevalent thing in society, it's just easy for people to accept it and to live with it. So the high time we start redefining what a relationship should be like, what a healthy relationship should be like, the better, for people who are currently in it. Because, and that's why would always say that people need role models. Every marriage needs every couple in marriage needs role models, at least a role model, people you can look up to, and say, this is how we want our relationship to be. This is the kind of marriage we want to have. Because when you don't have that, everything goes, the prevalent thing in society becomes your own experiences, becomes, normal to you. And then you just see yourself riding with the tide. So because it's a norm, because it's mostly the case with a lot of relationship out there, people who get into relationship, who get into marriage, see it as normal and just live with it.
All right, thank you so much for that. All three contributions are very valid. But before we go further, I would like to also point out that I know that there are different reasons, but nobody's talking about the money part, the luxury life. Of course there is the fear, there is a lot of things, but a lot of people just choose to stay because I saw one funny video one time where they said a woman caught her husband cheating. Of course it's not real, but like she went shopping and then she walked in on her husband cheating and then she just closed her eyes and went back with the bag of clothes that she bought. So there's also that element, that money factor, and we're going to delve into that very shortly. But right now let's take a look at what the youth across Africa are saying about, toxic relationships and why people are choosing to stay. We'll come back to talk about it.
Toxic relationships are detrimental to both parties involved, which can cause emotional stress, depression, anxiety, and physical harm. So if you find yourself in a toxic relationship, you should seek help from other people.
I always tell them one thing: communicate and comprehend. It's one thing to communicate, it's another thing to comprehend, to understand. So if you want to have a healthy relationship, you should communicate with your partner and comprehend your partner, understand your partner's needs, understand how your partners communicate.
stays in a toxic relationship? I mean, like, you know this relationship is toxic. Why stay in? Okay, let me even talk generally right now about her. Is it about the money?
People have different reasons for staying in toxic relationships. It might be due to childhood trauma and the fear of being left alone, or the person might have been the one person that they've always looked up to, and they probably don't believe that they are with that person. So for toxic relationships, I really don't have a lot to say. I've never been in one, and I believe that once it starts to get toxic, you should be able to stand up and just leave the relationship.
Well, picking up from where the last speaker there left off, he said something about when you see and you know that it's getting toxic, you should leave. But unfortunately, in this present age and time, there's some people who know that this relationship is obviously very toxic or looks like it's going to end, in a toxic manner either way. But they still go into it because of the prospects that they see in the relationship. And what prospects do I mean? I'm talking about money. Let's not try and sugarcoat it, right? We're talking about the money factor, the fact that, oh, this guy is rich, he can afford my lifestyle. That's what we're dealing with now. And unfortunately, a lot of people have jumped into that pool. Now, we're talking about people dating fraudsters, we're talking about people dating, I would say ritualists, for lack of better words to use, because a lot of people now go a notch higher with their search or quest for money. But that said, I still have my guests with me. I have Liza, Fisayo, and Chijioke. So let's now talk about toxicity in terms of people staying because of the benefits that they get. For example, dating fraudsters has now become a thing amongst mostly ladies, right? Of course, there are men who give themselves to older women, for what they get. They call them the sugar mommy, I think. and then, there's that. But mostly, you find ladies dating fraudsters, dating people who are, internet, you know what I'm talking about. And they literally damn the consequences and they close their eyes to the risks that are involved just because they can get enough money to fund their lifestyle from this either young boys or even older men. I mean, it's not just fraudsters now, dating older men that have money. As long as there's money, whether he's into fraud or not, a lot of people would jump at the opportunity. So Lisa, what do you think about this new trend?
The first question that always comes to mind in situations like this is, what are they running from? What kind of financial experiences have they had that brings them to a point where they say, by hook or crook, whatever happens, I must have money? That is one. I'm not making excuses. The second thing you begin to question is, how many people do they actually know who have made money legally? If people who make money legally are not available to teach, are not available to mentor, they are not available to coach, for lack of a better word, what happens is whoever will give the money automatically becomes the teacher. For example, you do not give a child cocaine on, like, let's say you're trying to indoctrinate a 12, 13-year-old into taking drugs. You don't give them drugs the first time and say, oh, this is cocaine, it will ruin your life. Now take it and then get money next time to buy cocaine. It won't work. What happens is you give it to them for free. At least that's how it's always worked. You give them that thing for free. The same thing happens for sexual priming. When you're priming a child for sexual molestation, that tends to happen with someone who can give them things. And this is how they start to prime this child's mind. So you're getting drugs for free until you become addicted. When you become addicted, you now need to source for the funds. I'm not going to confront the people who do the priming, the people who do the molestation, the people who do the harassing, the people who indoctrinate them. I'm going to face the people who have the capacity to change situations and didn't. When you made money legally, when you made your first 100,000, who did you teach how to make 10,000? Which child did you pick off the streets? Because if you don't, someone else will. So we have a child who's running away from poverty here, and then there is the prospect of money. And the only person who's bringing the prospect of this money is bringing it illegally. there's really not a lot of ground to say, oh, I'm going to work hard. There's really not a lot of examples to move with. Now, there are people, on the other hand, who know that they can really work hard and get this money and be better, but they want to be lazy. For those group of people, I think justice needs to come to term, because if people realize consequences, if they know that the consequences will catch up with them. And I don't mean the karma version, just, oh, karma will catch up with them. No. If you commit fraud and you know that you will get caught, there are systems in place that will make sure you get caught. There are systems in place that will make sure you face the penalty. People desist. Mind you, a lot of people do not have integrity to themselves. When we say integrity means I will do what I said I will do. A lot of people do not have integrity. What a lot of people have is a fear of shame. Oh, culture is going to say this. Oh, this is going to be the public consequence. Oh, I'm going to be ostracized. Oh, I'm going to do this. So now that we know people don't have personal integrity, as a society, we can't sit and hope that, oh, their integrity will kick in. It won't kick in. There has to be consequence. If that comes to play, then it's easier for people to say, okay, you know what? This is bad for me. This is really, really bad for me. But if there is nothing that makes them realize this is bad for me, they don't see the toxic effect of it. All of these things we're just saying will be English. I hope that helps.
Yes.
Fisayo would add something to it.
All right, thank you so much. Talking about, coming to Fisayo now, and talking about society. I think Liza mentioned something about society and pressure and all that. Fisayo, what do we say about society celebrating people, especially on social media, people that do not even know the source of the wealth of others? I'm talking about even top organizations falling into that same trap. I remember, I think it was a year ago, when a young man made it into the list of a top, I don't want to say like a top rating organization. And then he was like one of the, I think 30 on the 30 most successful, something like that. And eventually it was discovered that the guy in question is actually a fraudster, and the name was taken down and he was arrested and all that. So there's this societal acceptance now for people without even knowing what they actually do. Of course, a lot of people put up front, oh, I do this, but in the actual sense, that what they say they do and the reward they get from what they say they do not match. So what do we say about society celebrating such people without taking time to understand what they do for a living? Fisayo.
All right, thank you, Blessing. Well, as if you were reading my mind, because I was going to say that what do the society celebrate today? While we were growing up, I remember that you cannot bring something into the house without being questioned. Like, where did you get it? Especially when your parents or the people living around you know that you cannot fund that lifestyle. But everything has changed today, because you just see that even a minor can, suddenly become rich, and nobody's questioning he or she how they got the funds or the money that they are bringing into the house. So the financial pressure, I will start from the family. So I want us to know that the family is the foundation of every other thing that we are seeing in the society today. The people we are questioning, the people we are talking about, they all came from a family. Now, the values and the beliefs of individual families also matters, because there is nothing that happens in the society today that does not have its own foundation. So the foundation of every family will reflect on the behavior of every individual outside there. So the question is, what kind of financial beliefs and culture is being cultivated in the family of that individual that is being celebrated? Look at the popular rich men that we celebrate in Nigeria, that we know that we've seen that they have years of consistent value when it comes to money or making money, like Otedola, like Tony, like Dangote. That they had years of consistent way of making money. It's transferring to some set of people, and they can model after them. Now, if you look into their family culture, you will see some form of consistent way of doing business and making money that you can see in the lives of those people today. But now let's come back to our own generation. Do we have a track record of consistent way of making money? The financial culture of our family, is this something that another person can pick up and model after? Or parents just, leave their kids to go outside, make money and bring. One of the things that affect some of this, especially the young ones out there, is that they are pressured to make money for their family, even when they are not capable of doing that. So that their parents do not care wherever the money is coming from. They just, okay, we need to feed, we need to send. Some people start fending for their family at a young age. Some people do it legally. Some people do not do it legally. So I think that everything still boils down to culture and beliefs. What are the financial beliefs and what are the financial culture that our society is emulating today that is either impacting into the lives of people out there positively or impacting into their life negatively? Unfortunately, we have people being impacted negatively today because illegal ways of making money is more celebrated than the people who are hustling or trying as much as possible to make a legal ends meet. So I think that the society has a role to play when it comes to financial pressure, and that's why it leads people to unnecessary and unhealthy relationship, because they feel like, yes, the society see nothing wrong about it, so why should I even see anything wrong about it? Those person that I look up to, some of the people have role models that are being celebrated online, and they see how they make money, and it's been consistent for years. Nobody is even questioning them. So you can imagine if someone has a role model of that individual that was celebrated on that organization, international organization brand last year. Imagine it was a role model to someone.
Exactly.
And after a year, the person got to know that the means of making the money was illegal.
Yeah.
I'm trying to question how that person will feel. Will the person take a step back, or will the person continue in that move of making money?
Exactly. Thank you, Fisayo, for mentioning that, because funny enough, that was going to be my next question to Chijioke about family and friends no longer questioning sources of their children's wealth. I mean, it's so funny that it has become a thing where you see parents. Now, I'm not even going to talk about children's dress sense, because I know that back in the days, no matter who you are, if you wear some certain things, your African parents, they're going to discipline you both offline and online. But these days we see that, especially those children, the Generation Zs, the younger ones who are now building houses for their families, buying cars for their moms and their dads, you see them dressing in certain ways, taking pictures beside their mom, and their mom or their dad do not really care about that. And that's even about the dress sense. Now, talking about the things they do for their family members, buying them cars, building houses, it's like the parents and the friends and family have become so comfortable that they feel like, you know that thing that they say when it's best not to ask some questions because you don't want to hear the answer. So I feel like there's this evasion going on where parents don't want to ask questions because they don't want to hear the answer that they hope not to hear. I don't know if you get what I'm saying. What do you think about that? Chijioke, are you there? Okay. I think we lost Chijioke for a while. But Fisayo, we were saying something about that. So do you still want to chip in?
Well, what I would say to that is like Lisa said in her statement earlier on, that I think we should start holding people accountable. So when things unfold and these people get to face the consequence of their action, I think while they are facing that consequence, they enable people around them to should also face that consequence. Because by the time everyone who is enabling the other person, making money or doing sort of things that are not that cannot be impacted into the life of other people positively. I think everyone should take responsibility together. So maybe your child has been, or maybe your child is in a relationship where the partner or the spouse is making money illegally, and he keeps, or he or she keeps beating the individual in that relationship, but because of the money he or she derives there, um she stays there or he stays there.
Right.
If anything should happen to that individual, I think the parents of that person, or the uncles, or any other person that is enabling he or she to stay in that relationship,
Should
should
also be
also
held
face the
accountable.
consequences. So if
Exactly.
people start facing consequences, I think people will sit up.
Okay.
And yeah, so I think I should stop there. Yeah.
All right, thank you so much for that, Fisayo. I think we have Chijioke back now, but we'd like to go on a short break, and when we come back, we'll continue this very important discussion. Do stay with us. We'll be back. Thank you for staying with us. It's still Fafanua Afrika, and we have been talking about toxic relationships and why people stay, especially looking at the monetary benefit accrued with it, and the need for to be recognized, to be valued, and generally to just have money. And of course, I still have my guests with me. I have Liza Akunyili, a sex relationship coach in Nigeria. I also have Fisayo Dayo Samuel, a family life practitioner and communication expert in the United Kingdom, and Chijioke Moses, a newlyweds and premarital coach. They have been amazing guests, and we have been talking about this very important conversation. Now, before we went on break, we were talking about the families and friends who enable these people, who refuse to make inquiries about where they get their money from, where their wealth is from, and all of that. And so we'll be continuing the conversation. Chijioke, welcome back. At some point we lost you there, but now let me just ask you this. We know it's a known factor that it seems as though laziness among the youths is becoming a major causative factor. People are now looking for easy money. Like everywhere you go, people are, especially this new generation, you hear things like my mental health, I can't do a 9 to 5. And these same people do not have handiwork that they do. So at the end of the day, when you can't do a 9 to 5 and you don't have you haven't learned any trade, at the end of the day, you're looking for easy money. You're looking for someone who can bankroll your lifestyle. And these people have very, very high expectations. Funny enough, it's like the less money you have, the more dreams you have, the larger you want to live. So what's your take on all of that?
Okay, thank you very much, Blessing. Sorry, I had a little network glitch, earlier on. Okay, so this is a very important conversation that we're having today. Yeah, because I remember I did a post on this recently on Facebook, and I was talking about something like this, exactly like this. So you have situations today where people get into relationships and they don't mind, they don't care the person's source of wealth. They don't care once there's money. And then, of course, today, once there's fame, so you're dating a celebrity, and then he has 4, 5, 6, extra, marital affairs. Probably you guys are married or you're dating, and then he has babes everywhere, and you don't mind once the money is coming in, once he's bankrolling you, once the fame, you're in the news, as his partner every other day. You don't care what he does with his life. And for me, I think it's a big problem. It's a big issue today. And the reason is because parents, just like, of course, your question, we can trace it back to the family. I think the family is the foundation for this, for everything. The kind of training and the kind of parenting that we do, is why we have these kind of situations. Yes, because when you give birth to kids and you're raising your children, you should teach them, you should raise them to believe in themselves. You should raise them to, have a healthy self-esteem. Yes, when your kids grow up with a sense of, self-worth, they don't depend on somebody else. Whether it's a male child or a female child, you don't depend on somebody else, for survival. You don't depend on somebody else's money. Marriage is not, or relationship is not, having an opportunity to spend somebody else's money. That's not what it's about. That's not what marriage is about. For me, I think it's about coming in to share. Of course, you're coming in with something. He or she's coming in with something. So we are sharing your lives together. So it's not, it's not a one-sided thing. So it's not, But then today, that's not what we find in society. We have, so many young people who get into relationship with that mindset. For example, you find women who get into a relationship with a man, and then they say, they say, his money is our money. Let's be spending his money. So you don't even care where the money is coming from. You don't care the source. The reason is because you don't believe in yourself. You were not trained to, believe in your own abilities. You're not trained to make your own money and to fund your own life, and that's the problem. So because if your sense of self-worth is intact and is healthy enough, and you wouldn't be in that kind of relationship where just because of the money and because of the goodies and the luxury that comes with it. And so it's a lot of I think what we're doing today is is a way of talking to parents or would-be parents out there. While raising children, you must consider this, and you must engage with tools that help your children to grow up with a healthy sense of self-worth, especially when it comes to money, because money is a big deal. Trust me. In any relationship, money is a big deal. Actually, number one source of almost issues, in relationships, is money. It can always be traced. You can always trace it back to finances. So it's one area that parents need to focus on. You need to teach your children, train them to, discover who they are on time, to, train them in certain skills, train them to be entrepreneurial in their thinking, train them in all this, so that when they get into a relationship, they don't stay in something toxic, something that is destroying them because of what they stand to get from it. And then another reason why it is very important is because society today, society is modeling the wrong things. Lisa talked about it. All the things we see on the internet. Today in society, once you don't have money, you're nothing. Once you have money, you're everything. Nobody's asking where the money came from. Nobody's asking how you're making the money. Once you don't have it, you are just, not, you're almost not significant. Once you have it, you are everything. Even when you have your character is nasty. Even when you have terrible habits, even when that money is coming from a good source, yes. So the money does not have to come from a bad source. When the money comes from a good source and the relationship is toxic and you are still there, just because of the money, it's a problem too. So the world or society is modeling a lot of negativity, and so parents have a lot of work to do in this time and in this age. A lot, especially this age of Gen Zs, this generation, a lot of work to do. Parents must be stern when it comes to speaking out against wrong sources of finances, of money.
All right.
Parents must be stern.
Okay.
I was reading a story recently about a young girl that she was dating a guy, and then the guy is an internet fraudster, dating the guy, and then when it was time for the guy proposed and the lady accepted. When it was time to get married, they came back home and to meet the girl's mom, and the mom said, no, you're not going to marry this guy. But the mom was aware of the relationship all the while. She was collecting money from the guy, but when it was time for marriage, she refused. And he was like, no, I must marry him. And
okay.
I don't know how the issue was. I just read it up somewhere on the internet recently.
All right,
so
thank you so much.
That's the kind of we find today in society.
Okay.
People, so parents must be all out and speak against this while raising their children.
All right, Chijioke, I'm so sorry because of our time. I would like to ask Liza this. Now, this whole thing really brings me or makes me wonder. I mean, Liza, you are a relationship coach. So, I mean, it makes me wonder if there truly are genuine people out there, especially young men, those in their early 20s, late 20s, who are hustling and making, a good means of living for themselves. With all of these, it's like their reputation is dented. So sometimes when you even see a young man approach you, it looks as, this guy is young and he has money. No. I think he's a Yao boy, he's a fraudster. So how does one identify those who are truly, earning legit money, because they won't come to you and say, well, I'm a fraudster, but would you date me? You know, things like that. So Lisa, in your profession, I'm sure you've come across those kind of people or questions like that. What do you say to that very quickly?
I think the easiest way to find out what a person does is by the time they spend doing it. Long before I decided I was going to be a therapist, I remember this lady, most likely my age, she was a little older than me, came and complained about her boyfriend to me. She said she had this boyfriend who had time, but he didn't have money. And there was this other boyfriend who had money, but he didn't have her time. And I was thinking, I was younger than 20. I remember thinking, Auntie, choose your struggle. Pick what you want. At this point in his life, he's working. You don't expect him to give you his working hours right now because he can't afford to. If he gave you his working hours, he won't have the same money for which you are staying with him.
Right.
If the person is actually doing the work, you will know, considering how much it takes from them in terms of time, how much it takes from them in terms of energy. Months when I have projects back to back, there are times when I don't even have time to talk. Literally. When I come back, I'm exhausted. If you are with someone who is really doing the work, you will be able to find their high moments, times when they succeed at something and they're excited about it, times when they've broken through a particular limitation. You will know their downtimes, times when they failed something.
Okay. All right, Lisa, I'm so sorry. I mean, I would really have loved for you to continue, but because of our time, we're really pressed for time. But I would just like to take this opportunity to thank you all. You have been amazing guests, and I'm really hoping to have you again on my show. Hopefully, I'm going to reach out to you after the show. Thank you so much for joining me on the show.
Thank you for having me, Blessing.
It's a pleasure.
Thank
you.
Thank you.
All right,
Thank
very
you
quickly.
so much. Thank you for having me.
All right, thank you, Chijioke.